Smells like knowledge. Now let's see, where do we leave off? Yes, we were just finishing up launch. We're going to start chapter 5. Chapter 5 is games. You have my admiration. Breaking an arm, that was a masterstroke. That was an accident. Really, and I've already commended you in your official report. It's too strong. It makes that other little bastard into a hero. It could screw up training for a lot of kids. I thought he might call for help. Call for help? I thought that was what you valued most in him, that he settles his own problems when he's out there, surrounded by an enemy fleet. There ain't gonna be nobody to help him if he calls. Who would have guessed the little sucker'd be out of his seat and that he'd land just wrong against the bulkhead? Just one more example of the stupidity of the military. If you had any brains, you'd be in a real career, like selling life insurance. You too, Mastermind. We've just got to face the fact that we're second rate. With the fate of humanity in our hands, gives you a delicious feeling of power, doesn't it? Especially because this time, if we lose, there won't be any criticism of us at all. I never thought of it that way, but let's not lose. See how Ender handles it. If we've already lost him, he can't handle this. Who's next? Who else? I'll make a list. In the meantime, figure out how to unlose Ender. I told you his isolation can't be broken. You can never come to believe that anybody will ever help him out, ever. If he once thinks there's an easy way out, he's wrecked. You're right. That would be terrible. If he believed he had a friend. He can have friends. It's parents he can't have. The other boys had already chosen their bunks when Ender arrived. Ender stopped in the doorway of the dormitory, looking for the sole remaining bed. The ceiling was low. Ender could reach up and touch it. A child-sized room, with the bottom bunk resting on the floor. The other boys were watching him, corner-wise. Sure enough, the bottom bunk right by the door was the only empty bed. For a moment, it occurred to Ender that by letting the others put him in the worst place, he was inviting later bullying. Yet he couldn't very well oust someone. So he smiled broadly. "Hey, thanks," he said, not sarcastically at all. He said it as sincerely as if they had reserved for him the best position. "I thought I was going to have to ask for a low bunk by the door." He sat down and looked in the locker that stood open at the foot of the bunk. There was a paper taped to the inside of the door. "Place your hand on the scanner at the head of your bunk and speak your name twice." Ender found the scanner, a sheet of opaque plastic. He put his left hand on it and said, "Ender Wiggin. Ender Wiggin." The scanner glowed green for a moment. Ender closed his locker and tried to reopen it. He couldn't. Then he put his hand on the scanner and said, "Ender Wiggin." The locker popped open. So did 3 other compartments. One of them contained 4 jumpsuits, like the one he was wearing, and 1 white one. Another compartment contained a small desk, just like the ones at school, so they weren't through with studies yet. It was the largest compartment that contained the prize. It looked like a spacesuit at first glance, with helmet and gloves, but it wasn't. There was no airtight seal. Still, it would effectively cover your whole body. It was thickly padded. It was also a little stiff. And there was a pistol with it. A laser gun, it looked like, since the end was solid, clear glass, but surely they wouldn't let children have lethal weapons. Not laser, said a man. Ender looked up. It was one he hadn't seen before, a young and kind-looking man. But it has a light enough beam, well focused. You can aim it and make a 3-inch circle of light on a wall 100 meters off. What's it for? Ender asked. One of the games we play during recreation. Does anyone else have this locker open? The man looked around. I mean, have you followed directions and coded in your voices and hands? You can't get into your lockers until you do. This room is your home for the first year or so here at Battle School, so get the bunk you want and stay with it. Ordinarily, we let you elect your chief officer and install him in the lower bunk by the door, but apparently that position has been taken. Can't recode the lockers now, so think about whom you want to choose. Dinner in 7 minutes. Follow the lighted dots on the floor. Your color code is red, yellow, yellow. Whenever you're assigned a path to follow, it will be red, yellow, yellow. 3 dots side by side. Go where the lights indicate. What's your color code, boys? Red, yellow, yellow. Very good. My name is Dap. I'm your mom for the next 2 months. The boys laughed. Laugh all you like, but keep it in mind, if you get lost in school, which is quite possible, don't go opening doors. Some of them lead outside. More laughter. Instead, just tell someone that your mom is Dap, and they'll call me. Or tell them your color, and they'll light up a path for you to get home. If you have a problem, come talk to me. Remember, I'm the only person here who's paid to be nice to you, but not too nice. Give me any lip, and I'll break your face, okay? They laughed again. Dap had a room full of friends. Frightened children are so easy to win. Which way is down? Anybody tell me? They told him. Okay, that's true, but the direction is towards the outside. The ship is spinning, and that is what makes it feel like that is down. The floor actually curves around in that direction. Keep going long enough that way, and you come back to where you started. Except, don't try it, because up that way is teacher quarters, and up that way is the bigger kids. And the bigger kids don't like launchies butting in. You might get pushed around. In fact, you will get pushed around. And when you do, don't come crying to me. Got it? This is Battle School, not nursery school. What are we supposed to do then? Asked a boy. A really small black kid who had a top bunk near Ender's. If you don't like getting pushed around, figure out for yourself what to do about it. But I warn you, murder is strictly against the rules. So is any deliberate injury. Understand there was one attempted murder on the way up here. A broken arm. That kind of thing happens again. Somebody ices out. You got it? What's icing out? Asked a boy with his arm puffed up in a splint. Ice. Put out in the cold. Sent Earthside. Finished at Battle School. Nobody looked at Ender. So boys, if you are thinking of being troublemakers, at least be clever about it, okay? Dap left. They still didn't look at Ender. Ender felt the fear growing in his belly. The kid whose arm he broke. Ender didn't feel sorry for him. He was Stilson, and like Stilson, he was already gathering a gang, a little knot of kids, several of the bigger ones. They were laughing at the far end of the room, and every now and then one of them would turn to look at Ender. With all his heart, Ender wanted to go home. What did any of this have to do with saving the world? There was no monitor now. It was Ender against the gang again, only they were right in his room. Peter again, but without Valentine. The fear stayed, all through dinner, as no one sat by him in the mess hall. The other boys were talking about things. The big scoreboard on one wall, the food, the bigger kids. Ender could only watch in isolation. The scoreboards were team standings, one-loss records, with the most recent scores. Some of the bigger boys apparently had bets on the most recent games. Two teams, Manticore and Asp, had no recent score. That box was flashing. Ender decided they must be playing right now. He noticed that the older boys were divided into groups, according to the uniforms they wore. Some with different uniforms were talking to each other, but generally the groups had their own area. Launchies, their own group, and the 2 or 3 next older groups all had plain blue uniforms. But the big kids, the ones that were on teams, they were wearing much more flamboyant clothing. Ender tried to guess which ones went with which name. Scorpion and Spider were easy, so were Flame and Tide. A bigger boy came to sit by him. Not just a little bigger, he looked to be about 12 or 13, getting his man's growth started. "Hi," he said. "Hi," Ender said. "I'm Mick." Ender. "That's a name?" "Since I was little, it's what my sister called me." "Not a bad name here, Ender. Finisher. Hey." "Hope so." "Ender, you the bugger in your launch?" Ender shrugged. "I noticed you eating all alone. Every launch has one like that. Kid, that nobody takes to right away. Sometimes I think the teachers do it on purpose. The teachers aren't very nice. You'll notice that." "Yeah? So, you the bugger?" "I guess so." "Hey, nothing to cry about, you know." He gave Ender his roll and took Ender's pudding. "Eat nutritious stuff. It'll keep you strong." Mick dug into the pudding. "What about you?" asked Ender. "Me? I'm nothing. I'm a fart in the air conditioning. I'm always there, but most of the time nobody knows it." Ender smiled tentatively. "Yeah, funny, but no joke. I got nowhere here. I'm getting big now. They're going to send me to my next school pretty soon. No way it'll be tactical school for me. I've never been a leader, you see. Only the guys who get to be leaders have a shot at it." "How do you get to be a leader?" "Hey, if I knew you think I'd be like this, how many guys my size do you see here?" "Not many," Ender didn't say it. "A few. I'm not the only half-ice bugger fodder. A few of us, the other guys, they're all commanders. All the guys from my launch have their own teams now. Not me." Ender nodded. "Listen, little guy, I'm doing you a big favor. Make friends, be leader, kiss butts if you got to, but the other guys despise you. You know what I mean?" Ender nodded again. "Nah, you don't know anything. You launchies are all alike. You don't know nothing. Mine's like space. Nothing there. And if anything hits you, you fall apart. Look, when you end up like me, don't forget that somebody warned you. It's the last nice thing anybody's gonna do for you." "So why tell me?" asked Ender. "What are you, a smart mouth? Shut up and eat." Ender shut up and ate. He didn't like Mick, and he knew there was no chance he would end up like that. Maybe that was what the teachers were planning, but Ender didn't intend to fit in with their plans. I will not be the bugger of my group, Ender thought. I didn't leave Valentine and Mother and Father to come here just to be iced. As he lifted the fork to his mouth, he could feel his family around him, as they had always been. He knew just which way to turn his head to look up and see Mother, trying to get Valentine not to slurp. He knew just where Father would be, scanning the news on the table, while pretending to be part of the dinner conversation. Peter pretending to take a crushed pea out of his nose. Even Peter could be funny. It was a mistake to think of them. He felt a sob rise in his throat and swallowed it down. He could not see his plate. He could not cry. There was no chance that he would be treated with compassion. Dap was not his mother. Any sign of weakness would tell the Stilsons and the Peters that this boy could be broken. Ender did what he always did when Peter tormented him. He began to count doubles. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and on. As high as he could hold the numbers in his head. 128, 256, 512, 1024, 2048, 4096, 8192, 16384, 32,768, 65,536, 100,000, 131,072, 262,144 at 67,108,864. He began to be unsure. Had he slipped off a digit? Should he be in the tens of millions, or the hundreds of millions, or just the millions? He tried doubling again and lost it. 134 to something 16, or 17738. It was gone. Start over again. All the doubling he could hold. The pain was gone. The tears were gone. He would not cry. Until that night when the lights went dim and in the distance he could hear several boys whimpering for their mothers or fathers or dogs, he could not help himself. His lips formed Valentine's name. He could hear her voice laughing in the distance just down the hall. He could see Mother passing his door, looking in to be sure he was all right. He could hear Father laughing at the video. It was all so clear, and it would never be that way again. I'll be old when I ever see them again, 12 at the earliest. Why did I say yes? What was I? And his tears could fall unwanted on his sheet, but his sobs were so gentle they did not shake the bed. So quiet they could not be heard, but the ache was there, thick in his throat and the front of his face, hot in his chest and in his eyes. I want to go home. Dap came to the door that night and moved quietly among the beds, touching a hand here. Where he went there was no more crying, not less. Where he went there was more crying, not less. The touch of kindness in this frightening place was enough to push some over the edge into tears. Not Ender, though. When Dap came, his crying was over, and his face was dry. It was the lying face he presented to Mother and Father, when Peter had been cruel to him, and he dared not let it show. Thank you for this, Peter. For dry eyes and silent weeping, you taught me how to hide anything I felt. More than ever, I need that now. And we're going to stop there for now. We're going to finish up our chapter next time and start chapter 6, The Giant's Drink.